Hey folks, this is Dave Lentz. It is October the 11th, 2021, and so that means that 11 days ago we finished the third quarter of 2021. Um, we're still working our way through this Delta variant situation, although the numbers seem to indicate that the infection rate right now is going down a little bit, as are hospitalizations and deaths. It seems to be that those who are vaccinated are at least relatively assured that they're not going to go to the hospital or die, whereas those who have chosen to ignore the advice of medical experts and the vast majority of the science community, those who have remained unvaccinated still have a considerable risk of hospitalization or death if they contract this virulent Delta variant. Our website, reasonandbalance.com, is dedicated to fact-based decision making and the application of reason, logic, and science to the solving of societal problems, basically solving every problem with some sense of balance for the plight of the less fortunate, and some awareness that mankind, we are not robots. So basically with some sense of compassion and humanity. Um, Let me make a couple of observations. I've been meaning to say this for a long, long time. Uh, I've I've done 60 or 70 videos, maybe even more than that. I don't know, but my viewership is just it's humiliating, to be honest with you. But I'm going to press on. But it's just, if I go on YouTube and I look at some of the videos out there, those who talk about whether, talking about male genitalia, whether the size matters, and you get, hot young babes on there talking about various what turns women on and all this kind of stuff, and and there are all kinds of videos out there that basically just uh, uh, you know it, basically it's trash, and they'll get a million viewers or a half million viewers just like that, and YouTube, basically, I've come to the conclusion, they only reward people that ever get viewers. And, I've strived mightily. I've done finance, international business, videos on monetary policy, fiscal policy. I've done videos on, the Civil War, and some current issues and things like that. And, it may be that our production quality is not the best sometimes, but the content is very substantive and at least meaningful. And people are free to disagree. That's fine. I don't, rational discussion is welcomed, a rational debate is welcomed. But, it really gets disheartening after a while when you just see the crap that's on YouTube, and it just constantly has tons and tons of viewers. So I don't know what YouTube's algorithm is, but it does not reward substantively good content. Yeah, one of the things about YouTube and their algorithm that's really disadvantageous, especially to somebody like me, is if you have a few videos that have not many views or even zero views, um, that shows up on the screen when somebody does a search on YouTube to see what kind of video they want to watch. And if they see a video that doesn't have many views on it, they tend to shy away from that. And that becomes a self-perpetuating type of situation. And then you're always stuck in that, that that quicksand of your prior views had not many viewers, and that means by definition that's going to inhibit other people in the future from watching future videos, new videos that you produce. And I find that may have happened in my situation. You know, we do have First Amendment rights in this country and all this kind of stuff, and you know, in the race to be competitive and to make more money and all this kind of stuff, we want to be faster and faster and more convenient. And in the process, it's just you know, it's just like sort of a cashless society and all this kind of stuff. What we're doing is we're allowing the tech giants and the government to have more and more ability to snoop on us and to eventually control our lives if at some point they desire to do so. We're just like a bunch of lemmings following each other off the cliff. This world, this planet, is very interconnected. And if anything should show it, it should be two things. Number one, global warming, which is in fact a fact. And two, the COVID virus. I mean, we are all connected as mankind to each other. And what somebody does on the opposite side of the planet affects everybody. And I know we have been taught since day one that the free market is the answer to everything, and that we're just, it's sort of like we're out in the wilderness, you know, with thousands of miles of vacant land around us. Excuse me. You know, we're more interconnected with that. I mean, that model for an economy draws into questions a lot of the assumptions that are behind free market capitalism.
Yeah. What I mean by the underpinnings, back in the days of Adam Smith and when this country was founded, we had wide open spaces, we had big oceans. The economy of the world wasn't as interconnected as it is right now. We didn't have the ability to pollute the atmosphere like we do now, causing things like global warming and things like that. We have the internet now, and we instantly communicate. The point is that part of what makes the competitive aspect of free market capitalism so appealing is that if you're in the wide open spaces where everybody's health and welfare isn't so interdependent on everything else, you can get away with more of freedom of action, freedom irrespective of the consequences of somebody to somebody else, than you do in a situation where everybody you got a smaller planet or a seemingly smaller planet where everybody has an effect on somebody on the other side of the planet. We have global warming, we have COVID and all these things that affect everybody. And what I'm saying is that a lot of the assumptions of free market capitalism free market capitalism just works better when you're in the wide open spaces and people aren't running into each other. We don't have that situation anymore. And so it's a situation where mankind is going to be forced to be more cooperative and less competitive.
Now, I'm a capitalist, all right, I really am, but I've drawn the analogy many times that free market capitalism has a tendency to drive down costs. It does further excellence, and it gives everybody an incentive to get out of bed in the morning and actually go to work and do something and be productive. That's true. And for that reason, in terms of being a productive economy, creating a productive economy, it's probably the best system in the world. But it's just like nuclear power. Unless you have some sort of reasonable regulation to contain the red hot reactor, you get a lot of very undesirable consequences. And one of them is monopoly, which goes hand in hand with this idea of technology creating power in the hands of fewer and fewer people, power and money in the hands of fewer and fewer people. And in the end, mankind, the other 99%, is eventually going to be very, very subject to manipulation. Um, but I don't know. I'm probably going to have to create a different channel or something to have even a remote chance of having my video seen. I'm probably going to have to put a babe in a bikini on in my videos to get any kind of attention paid to my videos. And it just annoys the heck out of me. And I would just say this, and I would, for those of you out there who are always into expressing your rights, I'm all for the Constitution of the United States and freedom of expression. And God, to me, it's the most cherished document on the face of the planet, bar none, the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights due process. And when I talk about you got to watch when you exercise your rights that you don't taunt or get too much in somebody else's face and sort of, the NFL has a rule against taunting and going out and dancing on somebody's logo at midfield or something like that. And the reason for that is it promotes violence and ill will. And, it's just like I said, we have a right of freedom of expression and freedom of speech. But a couple things I need to say about that. Number one, a lot of people that oppose the vaccine for COVID think that it's an infringement on their rights to be forced by mandate to take the vaccine. Well, vaccine mandates have been around for a long time. I mean, I think it's still the rule virtually universally that you have to have a polio shot to go to school when you're a kid. I know I did. And so there's been a long history of requiring vaccinations of some description. And beyond that, the problem is that by exercising your right, you're in fact endangering other people because it increases the chance that new variants are going to arise. And it makes it more likely that the virus is going to stay around longer. And to add to that, there's another example. You're not allowed to taunt. For example, you're not allowed to walk in. You have First Amendment rights, but you're not allowed to walk into a theater and scream fire if there's no fire because you cause a riot. People trying to get out. You can't, I can't walk down to the main square in the city of Richmond and say I think that we should put all black people, but using, for example, the N word, I can't, and suggesting that we put all black people in concentration camps. And by the same token, if an African American walked down to downtown Richmond and got into the main square down there and said, I think we ought to put all white folks in prison and if you're too much in your face, pretty soon, if you're going to cause a riot, or you're just going to get people what's called fighting mad, your rights sooner or later are going to be lessened or modified or even revoked. So, don't taunt, don't do a dance in the end zone, so to speak, and all that kind of stuff. But it's like anything else. When I was a kid, I made fairly good grades, and my dad began to trust me. So he actually, I actually had no curfew. Okay, when I was a kid, all my friends had curfews. I didn't. Now, but I was never out until untold late hours of the night. I never came home drunk. I never came home high on marijuana or anything else. And the point is, I was given these rights, and it gave me freedom. Okay, but I never abused them. If you just if you just constantly pound on your rights, even when, when doing so may be slightly offensive to somebody else. Now, sometimes you got to do that to stand up for your rights. But if you just constantly do it, if you constantly exercise your rights in an in your face manner, sooner or later it becomes an abuse of those rights, and sooner or later somebody will take them away from you.
Yes, and in this regard, everything is about getting attention that you see online right now. You've got to say something outrageous, even if it's not totally accurate, just whatever it takes to get attention. And we live in a society that's based on attention grabbing and misdirection. We get so much stuff for free that we just sort of assume that a lot of things are going to be free when they're not. A lot of times when we're surfing the internet or we're doing whatever, getting some kind of app or something like this, basically what we're doing is we are, whether we know it or not, selling information about ourselves. But everything is based, it's just like email, free email. Well, they've got another agenda. They're getting something from you in order to get that, to give you that free email. And our society is just sort of based on it's based on misdirection and misperception and attention grabbing, and it's very unhealthy. And it's not, allowed us to allow large tech companies and at some point probably the government too to snoop on us, and it also puts us at odds with each other, at each other's throats, because we're always reading these headlines that get us all fired up. And so there's something that's really amiss in American society. Well, this is a worldwide phenomenon anymore. About the way the entire economy is built. It's built on bait and switch.
Yeah, when I say bait and switch, I mean, where you have a situation where a seller basically says that they're selling you uh, Article A, but they really want to sell you something else, and they try to lure you in with a sweet ad or something about a widget, and then they want to sell you a carpet or something like that or something else. Um, that's sort of a bait and switch. In essence, a lot of the tech companies they're basically they're saying that they're giving you free stuff when in essence they are acquiring information about you so that they can turn around and resell it to somebody else.
And we've got to constantly update our passwords, and you go to try to do anything and you're being avalanche. You got a job that you got to do on the internet or to generate some work product or something, and the computer immediately either wants to update, change your password, or they're sending you some new information that's an emergency that you've got to take care of. Meanwhile, you've got this pressing deadline, and and now we have been sold in a lot of respects a bill of goods by the tech companies because it's our lives are in little electronic bits and bytes, and we can be hacked and held up for ransomware and all this other stuff. And American and society and the interconnectedness of the globe and the world, the rest of the world, they have the same problems really anymore also. But in any event, a lot of these things need to be addressed, and our politicians are too interested in power and not solving these problems based on factual determination and fact-based information. Everything is posturing, and it's just everyone's just worried about getting elected and power.
Anyway, we just finished the third quarter of 2021. Everybody needs to get vaccinated. What those who won't get vaccinated need to understand is you are, in fact, helping to elongate the period with which we have to deal with this deadly virus. So the actions of not getting vaccinated is actually creates an additional danger to everybody else around. And even worse, it increases the chances that we're going to be facing more deadly variants. Now, I'm sorry, but the weight of the science is behind the argument of getting vaccinated. To me, it's beyond reasonable doubt at this point. It's just ridiculous not to get vaccinated. And and it's like, and we need to do something about attacking the climate problems on this planet, and we need to cooperate more with other countries. Bottom line is that competition is good on the sports field, and to a certain extent it's healthy in the economy, but as a group of people, as a world, as a nation, as a group of races, as a planet, we have to learn to cooperate with each other more effectively than we have in the past. This is Dave Lenz. Thanks for watching. Dum 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 dum